Hello, my dear listeners. Welcome to the new episode on the Frame Solution. Today I have a new guest. His name is Patrick Jr. He'll be talking to us about his PhD journey, what he's learned along his journey, and also all the good things that the PhD is offering him. I'm excited to have him. Hi, Patrick. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, and I'm very pleased to be on the Framed Solution. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation
Welcome, Faith.
and taking time off your busy schedule. You could come in and tell us about your PhD journey and your academic journey in general.
You're most welcome, and I'm very excited to be here today.
Could you tell me about your background, how you've got to where you are now?
I started my journey with a diploma in building and civil engineering back in Uganda, and after that, I went into the field and I practiced for 4 years. Then, after getting the need for progression, I went and did a BSc in construction project management at Makerere University in Uganda. Then after that, I got an opportunity and got a scholarship to study at the University of Manchester in the UK, where I completed my master's in construction project management. Then after that, I went into project management, where I practiced in different fields, ranging from highway construction, hydropower construction, wind farm, and oil and gas exploration. And then after that, I realized that there was a need for me to progress with my studies, and I applied for a PhD at the University of Queensland. That was after joining academia back in Uganda, where I work as a lecturer in the Department of Construction Economics and
Wow, that's a beautiful CV. I've loved to hear everything, but I believe it's not been a smooth journey for you. So, what events have led you to where you are right now? Because I believe, as you'd say, moving from one position to another, doing a diploma and getting a bachelor's and a master's, and now you're a PhD student. What events have led you to where you are right now?
I can say there are very many events where I can say some have been personal and then the other one have been intellectually, and and also others have been career related. One of them is a passion for progression that I've been right from my childhood. I've been someone who like actually to explore virgin areas and challenge the status quo. So it's been a series of events that from my diploma I went to working, and then after working I went into for my bachelor's up to where I am. So there has been really key events like for my PhD, after getting employment into education. So I realized it's really a very key milestone for me to progress and get more research skills as far as my work is concerned.
I've loved the fact that you've talked about you having passion, because I believe to do anything in life, you need to be either passionate or not passionate about it. If you don't do anything about it, you're not passionate. So passion is a big thing when it comes to actually career and anything that we do in life. What have you learned along your career path? What are some of the lessons that you've learned and you're like, you know what? I now know if I was to go back and do this again, I wouldn't do it this way.
I think to me, the most important resource I've realized that people actually don't appreciate is time. I've learned time management, and I can say that if I was to go back from where I started, I would do things differently as far as time is concerned. You get that sometimes, people complain we don't have time, and sometimes we waste time. We don't know how to plan our time. You don't know when to do what. So we must do the right thing at the right time in the right place. So that's one of the thing that I've learned, that time management. And then the other thing during my work experience, I've told you that I've been into project management. Have learned that the very key factor in project management is people. That is what we call the human resource. So you get that in project management, when I just started, I go into a project and I've been entrusted with a multi-million project. And then here I go, I start off my list looking for equipments, looking for materials, but without knowing, all these would work actually when the human resource is in place. And it's not just the human resources, how you manage them in terms of motivating them. Sometimes you get that managing people is something which is so dynamic. You know, it's not like a machine. A machine, you may buy a spare part, put in fuel, and then take it on the road and it will work whatever you want. But to remember, someone who is operating this machine is an individual who wants to be motivated. Sometimes when people think of motivation, the most important thing, the most direction they take is money. These people, even talking to them, trying to actually embrace that they are part of the project, it's really very, very important. So time management and people management have been a very key lesson as far as my career is concerned. Now, when it comes to academics, still also time management, and then there's what I call relationship management. This relationship is with very diverse community. One is the fellow students, because they make your environment ambient for your studies. And then the other one is the supervisory, like for my PhD. You see, a PhD is not like a master's or undergrad, where you have all the time someone guiding you, and whenever you want him or her, you go and get whatever you want. Now, a PhD, you just have a mentor, but 100% of the work is upon you. You have to manage your time. You have to manage your resources. You get that it's completely different from a master's and the undergrad. When I do my coursework and it's marked and that's all done, here I have to do everything by myself, and then my mentor or my supervisor is just to guide me, but he will not decide for you what to do. It's all about you. It's not all about him. Quite actually, supervisory, student supervisory role for a PhD are like a pilot and a mechanic on an aeroplane. You are actually the pilot, and the supervisor is the mechanic who will help you to ensure that the plane is mechanically safe, so that it can land. But it's upon you to know what is the altitude, how should I fly the plane, how high or how low, you know. So that's how I equated that I am the pilot and my supervisor is the mechanic to help me in case of any eventuality. He is there because they are really there to help us. When you reach out, they really do help us, you know. Yeah.
That's amazing. Those are very nice lessons. I'll include them in my ebook. Yes. So how would you advise someone seeking to advance their career by pursuing a PhD? I know you've talked about what you've learned about time management, human resource management, and the supervisor. So if someone is looking out to start a PhD, where should they start from? How would you advise them?
One most important thing is passion. That anyone looking for a PhD should be prepared to do something which she or he has passion about. Okay, so in this I mean it can be intellectual passion, or it can be natural drive. What I call natural drive, that's something you love naturally. Intellectually means, for example, I'm a project manager. I come to do a PhD in project management. Of course, it's not what I'm doing, but I'm just giving an example that you get that intellectually, because you have a very good control as far as literature is concerned and the experience in this field of project management. So you know that when you go there, you really excel. You have to do a project which you really love, that even when you wake up at midnight, you feel like smiling when you think about your breakthroughs, even if there are challenges, but you feel like, yes, I have to soldier on because I really love the thing. And then the other thing is just a natural drive. You get that you may not be having a great experience as far as academics is concerned in that area. But you see, when we do a bachelor's or a master's or a honors, for the case of Australia, this gives you what we call the basics of academics. That or if you are passionate about research, you can do anything, provided you love it naturally, even if you're not intellectually gifted into that. But you see, when you love something naturally, it comes out, it becomes part and parcel. You're going for dinner, you're thinking about it. You're driving, you're thinking about it. You're swimming, you're thinking about it. Especially for me, when I'm taking a shower in the morning, I'm thinking about my project. And then the other thing, it should be funding. PhD is not like any like bachelor's or master's that you get. And even when you go to the funding, you get that there are very many scholarships as far as master's is concerned, compared to a PhD. So it can't be it can be self-funded, but you really have to pull a lot of resources into this. So looking for funding is also one of the advice I would give to students who are looking for a PhD. I just take an example of myself. I can't deceive you that I would actually do a PhD when I'm self-funding, when I'm paying for myself. Yeah. Factor. And then the other one is for good advisors. Automatically, one would actually ask me, how would you look for good advisors when you have not actually interacted with them? A PhD and a PhD advisory services, it's actually like marriage. Sometimes it can work out, and sometimes it can't work out. But you as a student, you have to make sure it works out, because at the end of the day, you have to have that PhD, and so this is a marriage relationship you're going to go into for 3 or 4 years, or sometimes 5 years, depending whether you're doing it full-time or part-time. So you must actually have such a person that you will actually work with. So this, I haven't answered the question where I said, how do you know a good advisor? So the basics you can go by is looking at their scholarly materials. Okay. Yeah. See, what has this person been? There are people who actually, one I call unidirectional. And then there are others who are actually like broad. They have supervised several projects, ranging from different fields, Yeah, and then there are others who are unidirectional, that if you're looking, for example, project management, he has specialized in project management. But the others who have specialized in project management, psychology, and then business, you get that they are really dynamic. So when you go and then search about their scholarly work, and then you may land onto a very good advisor, and sometimes it really works most of the time, I can say. My experience of the PhD, it's really been a challenging one, but maybe from the project management background that I have, as I told you, project is about managing resources, and one of the resources is time, human. So it so happens that for my PhD, it's really been not a straight journey. I started my PhD in a business school, and along the way, my supervisor changed jobs and went to another university. So I had to look for another primary supervisor, either within the school or around the university. So throughout that process of looking for another supervisor, I really learned a lot. And it was advantageous and disadvantageous as well. Advantageous in such a way that I reached out to very many people, and whom actually up to now I still use. Yes, they have connection with them. Some even are my referees, because we went beyond a PhD now. We became very good peers. So you get that exactly. So you get that even managing that transition with another project on its own, you know. So it's kind of I went now off the real research, and then I went to do searching the supervisor. But luckily enough, I landed on my current supervisor, whom I'm working with, and so happened that he's really a very good supervisor, supportive, and it's all the qualities what I've talked about above. He actually has them, and yeah. So I'm not complaining. He really pushed me very well during the beginning of my tenure with him. Yeah, and with a PhD, it's like in the initial process, the supervisor is kind of in control, but now when it reaches where I am, you are in control. Actually, you become more experienced in your topic. You become actually an expert more than even your supervisor. So yes, at this time now, it's me to tell him I'm doing this, but because he still has that advisory role, he says, yeah, how come that how about if you did it like this? Of course, it's just advice. If you want it, you take it, and of course with justification. So he's still your advisor, so he's still advising you along that. But anyway, so my experience has been that going through changing schools, changing supervisors, and then reaching where I am. So that has been kind of my lived experience. I've seen it that changing supervisor is not really a very easy process, however much it paid off for my case.
What has been your emotion experience like during this period of your PhD?
As far as emotional experience is concerned, you see, I must say for myself, what I used to hear is not what I'm seeing or what I've seen so far. It's of course, like you see, when we talk of emotional experience, this is like kind of lived experience, how you have really experienced it yourself. You get that, yeah, I used to hear, yes, the PhD is difficult. Of course, it's difficult. But as I've told you, when you manage it well, it is difficult but possible. There are two different things. There's something which is difficult, but also possible. So, it's actually... as far as the emotion experience is like now, I can share what I've gone through and what I'm experiencing. It is that one of the most challenging period of mine was when I was alone, and I was emotionally down. I mean alone as in I didn't have my family here. My family was in Uganda, 1,000 miles away. So that was it was kind of a difficult moment, but still I worked out, and my family joined me, and here I am. I'm with them. They are so supportive. However much also it comes with other challenges. Those days I used to manage my time because I was alone here. It was just planning when to call them and how to call them. So that was all as far as communicating with my family. But now here they are. I have to budget my time, see what's the time for the family, what's the time for my PhD. Yeah, so
also speaking about that, you've talked about your family being here, and would you advise someone, let's say if someone is just thinking of getting married and doing a PhD alongside being married, would you advise someone to do that? Like, let's say, because you talked about when you were alone, you had all the time to yourself. You'd just figure out when you to call your family and you'd call them. But now you have your family here, you have to divide yourself in two small portions. The portion for your family, for your wife, the portion for your kids, the portion for your supervisor, and the portion also for yourself, because also I believe you have things that you want to do for yourself as a person. So what's your advice? Do you think people should go into the PhD while they are married, or do you think that it's better to go through it when you're single and get married after that?
As far as the family issue is concerned, it was kind of an issue at the beginning, but now, yeah, I'm seeing how I can do managing the two roles. That's what we call role conflict. That you are the husband, but also a student, So you have to manage the combination. Yeah, I must say it's really subjective. That it depends. It depends on the individual. From my experience, actually, I would say going to a PhD when I'm married, it paid off, because I'm just imagining after finishing these 3 or 4 years into books and then going to a relationship or managing a relationship with a PhD. Personally, it was easy to manage the family or the wife with a PhD. I wouldn't imagine managing courtship and a PhD. It's a bit that could be another topic on its own. But what I'm saying that it's subjective. That for me it really worked well. That I came for a PhD when I had a family or I had a wife, so I could know how to manage the two. But also, yes, on the other side, if someone is really is being single and and maybe wants to get into a relationship in the middle of his PhD or her PhD, I would say if the two people, love is about the two people. If the two people can really understand what is on the table at the moment, that however much we have, yes, we have our love, but there is this baby called a PhD on the table. So let's see how we can manage this baby, take him or her off the table, and then we see what else we can put. But yes, you can put the love also on the side of the table as you're also managing the PhD, because it all comes also to emotional support. Maybe someone, by getting married, that's why I say it is subjective, it depends on an individual. By someone getting into a relationship, he will get or she will get more support as far as the PhD is concerned, and then the other one will be distorted. So if you can manage, do it. If you can't, wait for until you finish a PhD. Yeah.
So you've talked about the fact that you've worked. What advice would you give a person who is just doing their bachelor's or master's or even honors and wants to do a PhD? Would you advise them to first get some work experience before they can enroll into the PhD, or they can do a PhD just from the academic qualifications?
That's a really very interesting question. My advice is a two ways. It's just like the relationship and the PhD advice I gave. It so happens that I think I would say it depends where we are coming from. For example, personally, coming from Uganda or Africa, I think I wouldn't have benefited much if I came directly from a bachelor's, a master's, and then a PhD without any experience. Because my working experience has benefited me a lot as far as the PhD is concerned. But now, when you come to Australia, and it was really a very exciting experience for me to realize that someone can come from honors and do a PhD. Yeah, so you get that someone has, if you have that passion that you can manage and maybe from masters, then you can join a PhD directly. You should do it. But also, I realized when I heard the stories of these people who join from who do the rapid, I can say, the rapid career to do a PhD from bachelor's, master's, or honors to a PhD. It's about mentorship, because when you get that, most of the people here doing a PhD from honors, they actually, very good percentage, do their PhD with the same supervisors at honors. You get that the mentorship has been really so good that someone can be molded into a PhD material, you know. But if your mentorship really wasn't good at undergrad and a PhD, and I mean a master's, so when you come to a PhD, you really fight hard to get things, to put up things together, you know. So I would go into, I think, maybe I would say mentorship is really key, because you get that most of the people who do a PhD after experience, they actually do in a real life, they solve a real life, I mean, they do in a real life problem, you know. Sometimes from work after, maybe if it's like marketing, someone has seen that maybe consumer communication is not, maybe consumer handling is not really good. So someone identifies that niche, that gap, and then he's like, oh, I think the thing, if I expanded it and I see why, actually, you keep questioning yourself, why is our sales low? Why is this, you know? And then it's like, maybe I do a research in this. So that's actually the good thing with someone who is from working experience. I'll just take an example of myself, you know, because when I was working as a materials engineer, because my PhD is looking at what we call development minerals, or what we call low value minerals. These are not anything new, but like I call them construction materials. So when I was working in construction, we used to buy these materials sometimes locally from these people who make them, and most of them are women who are laboring so much. So you get that I realized that this thing actually is lacking. How can these people be improved? What capacity building do we really need, such that these people can have better quality, such that to attract better markets? So that actually what drove me to get. I saw a gap that these people really, exactly. So that's what actually pushed me from field back into doing a PhD. So I think, this one has advantage that you're solving a real life experience, and this one, the problem you have will depend on the mentorship. Because if you don't have mentorship, coming from directly from bachelor's or master's to a PhD, sometimes it becomes a bit challenging. But if you have mentorship, it does well. Yeah. Thank you.
Would you explain what you mean by development minerals?
Thank you very much for that question, and I will clarify on that. When we talk of minerals or mining, most people actually think of what we call high value minerals, which are gold, copper, diamond, and others. This is because of the economic value that they fetch high as far as the price is concerned per unit volume. But when it comes to these other minerals, what we call low value minerals, for example, sand, aggregates, stone, even the real soil, anything which comes from the ground is a mineral, So you get that these minerals, they are actually minerals which we require for our daily to-day life. We require for our daily to-day life. You get that required to build houses. These are means we require to construct roads. So you get that the development, impact of these minerals is so high in the area where they are mined and used compared to the high value minerals, the gold and the copper and the rest. So it so happened that my supervisor, when he was on a UNDP project, they actually said the negative connotation these minerals carry as far as their name is concerned, that low value minerals, it's one of the stumbling block why the sector is not developed. So they said instead of calling them low value minerals, they're actually development minerals. Because when you look at the development impact of these minerals, most especially in developing countries, is so high compared to these high value minerals. So those are the development minerals. They're just not, it's not anything new. It's just what we are used to see, like sand, aggregates, the stones we use on the road, the soil we use on the road, and something like and they are like.
Thank you for teaching me. Now I know something about development minerals. On a lighter note, what has been one of your pinch me moment?
The most pinch me moment, I summarize it as saying, seeing my PhD evolving. When I came, I came with some guys thinking, I'm going to do that. And then when I started, I almost lost confidence, and you realize that what you thought is not actually what you're going to do. So now you have to start do literature review, identifying the gap in the literature, So my PhD evolving from say 0.0 to where I am, that's actually, I call it my pinch me moment, that I never expected to get what I'm getting, although it's not yet there, but I can see there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, so that has been my pinch me moment, seeing my PhD evolving. It's just like a mother seeing the child, from all through the development stage until that stage where you can say, okay, my son, come sit down and we talk. Now I can say, my PhD, come sit down and we talk.
How have you found encouragement during your PhD journey?
Surprisingly, you see, this goes back where I said connecting to people. Someone who gave me confidence wasn't even my supervisor. He's one of the professor I met at one of the conferences I'd gone. I didn't present, I was just new. I'd just gone to listen what people were talking. It so happens also I got frightened more after hearing what people were saying. I was like, Patrick, what am I going to do? But it so happens it was a coffee time catch up, and I met this professor, and I started explaining to him what I'm going through. And it so happened that, you see, there's something I didn't tell, that my first supervisor was a lady. Because of the cultural background, there is a way that there are some things I could not express to her, sorry. Yeah, but now here I get this professor. I said, I'm doing a PhD with so and so, and this doesn't mean my supervisor wasn't good, but so happens that this is just because of cultural background, that from where I come from, are more open to talk to a man, than a female, So you get that, at that point where I felt that, this is where even you're thinking of, why did I leave some good salary to come back to study? I really had it in the field where I was working. I had gotten a job at the university, but still now because of the job at the university, I had to come back and do a PhD. So it so happens that that point where I felt that, should I give up? So I got this man. I still even have some email after that conversation at the conference. The following day, sent me an email. At least every month I open that email, I read through, and I promised during my graduation I will forward him that email and write a thank you note. So it really helped me in that way, that this man was, I can say, he was a savior as far as gaining confidence is concerned. You know, a PhD sometimes that you don't, it's not that you don't know, it's just confidence, getting someone to encourage you, exactly, to tell you you can, and this is how you can do, because these are people, they are talking from a lived experience, you know. So when they tell you, and it so happened, he did actually his PhD when he had a family. So we shared a lot in common with this professor.
From what you've said, you came in with the experience, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a diploma. Did you ever feel that you didn't know what you were doing during this PhD journey?
You see, going to that, you know, like we have milestones at the University of Queensland. In my very first week, you know, they used to send out, after joining, I got a university email. So they used to send out email to everyone. So I attended a confirmation seminar for one of the colleagues in our department. That was actually the very first frightening moment, because whatever he was talking, he was talking as if in parables. He was a philosopher. You know, this is the man who had actually done his PhD in philosophy for 2 years, and then he transferred to business school. So he comes with all those heavy philosophical terms. I got frightened and I was like, oh, what's happening? But anyway, how did I come over this? I had actually to make an appointment with him. He's a busy man. He said, okay, if you want me, you can come to the city and we talk. And then that's when he told me, Patrick, you know what? Don't get discouraged with my project, you know. Everyone's project is different, you know. And that is the uniqueness of a PhD, you know. Your project is unique to another one. However much you have all the same basics, but you shouldn't say, because the other person is still doing a very fascinating thing, me, I cannot manage it. Hang on yours, you know. Just get just get what we call the integrating skills from the other person to you, you know. Yeah, and then you will manage.
That's been a lovely piece of advice. Hopefully, our listeners will enjoy that part of you talking about that everyone's journey is different. Don't compare your journey with someone else. So before we finish this part today, I would like to ask you some quick fire questions. The first question is, what sports do you like to do?
I'm a soccer fan and I support Liverpool. I'm on LinkedIn. The name is Patrick Jr. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Google Scholar. I'm on ResearchGate. Yeah, just put in Junior Patrick. You see University of Queensland. At least one of the Junior Patricks in University of Queensland will be myself.
Thank you, Patrick, for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
You're most welcome, Faith. And maybe a closing remark. You get that the way I've gained perfection with my PhD is talking actually about my PhD. I'm more than willing to talk to people about my PhD. That's where even I get confidence. I get some reviews. I get advice, comments, which actually have helped me shape my PhD.
If you've learned something from this episode, please like, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcast. And also can't wait to speak to you in the next episode. Have yourself a lovely day wherever you're at, and bye bye for now. Stay blessed.